it just opened up my sort of book of dreams became a reality, like, oh, can I do the world's longest triathlon? Finishing the swim sort of gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, I can do that, so I think that's how it really made me go on to do these other things.
Hello, family. Welcome to another episode of the Live From Boundless Show. I'm your host, Kenneth Pinkney. Today's guest is a gentleman who got my attention not only because he's red haired and he had red beard, but his unique story of running. At the same time, I not only consider him a runner, but a venture, an extra endurance athlete. He's someone who is not afraid to chase his dream, to change the course in his life, to go out of the norm, to try something new, to live a life and not let life live him. So what is he known for? Maybe being the first person to cycle, run, and swim 4,200 miles around the coast of Great Britain and the world largest triathlon. Recently, earlier this year, he took on a challenge of the National Parks Marathon, which we'll get into later. so family, let's welcome Mr. Sean Conway, the athlete, the adventurer, born in Zimbabwe, live in the UK, Wales. Sean is the renowned ultra endurance athlete, author of 7, but yeah, I think you say maybe 6 books. multiple world records, been featured on Tedx, Discovery Channel, the National Running Show, and numerous other company organizations. He's also a husband and a father. So how are you doing, Sean?
Kenneth, thank you for having me, mate. Oh, I love that intro. Can you write that down? I'm going to put that on my website. Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I guess it's quite early for you over there.
Yeah, I think it is pretty early, a little bit early. But it's all good. It's all good. Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad that you're doing okay. I was looking forward to really get to know you, and just really let the family, who don't know you know who you are, I mean, saw on Instagram, I do some research on you, and you seem like you have a pretty interesting life. And do have a pretty interesting life.
Yeah, I mean, the last 10 years has been pretty interesting. It was pretty boring until I was 30. I'm now 41.
Okay.
The last 11 years has been interesting, but it's been a crazy ride.
Okay, so the crazy ride, but before you had that crazy ride, I like to talk about the process and journey of people's life before become who they are. So take us through the process of your journey before becoming going on a different adventure, the person that you are today. How you like growing up as a kid?
Yeah, and an African childhood was just incredible. My dad is a conservationist, so we grew up in the middle of these big, huge wildlife national parks with lions and elephants and rhinos and buffalo and leopard and so it was pretty adventurous. And from an early age, I got into photography.
Okay.
And I dreamt of being this amazing travel photographer. But then, and I think a lot of people probably made the same mistakes I did. In your late teens, you start sort of, chasing the money a little bit because you think maybe that's what I need to do in life. And then that extended through into my 20s, just chasing the money rather than the passion. And of course, you need money, right?
Yes,
and there should be a healthy a healthy balance between doing stuff because you need to feed your family and put a roof over your head and all that sort of stuff. That's important, and that requires money. That's just the world we live in. So there's no point in ignoring. I'm not an idealist where we should all just barter socks that we knit. You need to do stuff to make money, but you should also do stuff that makes you happy. And ideally, there's a nice balance. Maybe it's 50-50. I think 50-50 is probably quite realistic. Where 50% of the time you're doing stuff that you don't particularly like, but you don't hate it. Like, if you hate it, that's a different story. But I think and as long as the other 50% is stuff you enjoy, or maybe there's a higher percentage of what you're doing stuff that you don't like, but because you're doing it, you're able to feed your family, and that gives you some purpose, which is important as well. But for me, it was 99% doing stuff I hated, and I had no family to feed either, so I had no excuse at the time. So I just was doing photography jobs that I hated, really, and I landed up being a school portrait photographer. Doing photos of kids at school photo day. I don't know if you do that over there, but in the UK, every year a photographer comes into the school, takes pictures of the kids, and the parents buy them. So anyway, that was pretty soul destroying when you're just sort of repeating the same photo 10,000 times a year and selling them to the parents. Eventually I just had enough, so I packed it in, decided to go traveling, and that sort of led to this job, I guess.
So being a photographer, that was not a passion of yours, and that's not something that you really enjoy doing at all?
Well, I really enjoyed being a photographer in the early days. So I wanted to be this travel photographer, but instead, and that would have scratched my creativity, my travel itch and all that. But instead, I just got into school portrait photography. I had a passion for photography. I just chose the wrong type of photography.
Was it hard to be a travel photographer? Or what stopped you?
Well, weirdly, because I was earning good money doing the schools. I eventually just stopped looking for travel jobs because they didn't pay it. They didn't pay as much.
I got you now. I understand. Okay, then. So first it was all about the money, and so that was part of a business of yours also. It's like your business also being a photographer also.
So the photography, so that was 10 years. So I'm just trying to think of the timeline now to put things into perspective a bit. So 10 years I did photography, actually, and so it was only when I was 30 that I sort of got into sport. So it was sort of I got into this quite late. And that's sort of and I still like photography now, but I just don't want to make a living from it. I want to keep it as a hobby, because sometimes everyone says, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day of your life. But actually, there's some things you want to do where you don't want it to be your job. Like sometimes you want to keep things as hobbies, and having to make money from it kind of ruins it sometimes.
And there's a lot of pressure on you to do it. For the money. So research you. I got one of the biggest things that stuck out is like you had give up your business. You got to sell your business. You say, and so where I'm from, it's £1. So I didn't really concern that what that means US dollars, £1.
It's about $1 to be fair. It's 80. It's about $1.20, I think.
I saw that once. That's right. So you give up. It's also been a state you give up to sell it. To be an adventurer. That's a risk. Was there a risk for you to do that?
So I guess it was a risk, but I didn't feel it was a risk at the time because
Okay.
I was so miserable doing the photography that giving that up, I couldn't have been more miserable, really, I think. So, and I just, I wanted to go traveling, and the only way I thought of going traveling was to become this, an endurance athlete that travels while he's trying to break records. So for me it was easy because I was single. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have any kids at the time, so it was easy for me. Had I had a mortgage and a family,
it would be totally different.
That would have been totally different. But I got out lucky. I got out early before that all happened.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Now, were you married at the time? What happened?
No, nothing.
Okay. Then.
No, and people always say, well, it was easy for you because you were single, which is true.
Yeah.
But interestingly, had I been married, I probably would have quit the photography earlier. I think, because I think had I had a wife and kids, I would have suddenly, and this is what's happening to me now. I would have suddenly wanted to be a better person. And that's what happens when you have kids, right?
Yeah.
And I think I would have then realized that me just photographing school kids isn't the best version of me.
Okay.
So I probably would have done something similar, but I maybe wouldn't have done it as a clean break. I might have just sort of started saying no to more of the rubbish photography jobs and built up my career again. In the travel genre of stuff. So interestingly, I think I probably would have stuck with photography, but I now would be sitting here being a National Geographic photographer, rather than a ultra endurance athlete. So I think my path would have stayed with photography, but gone down a more adventurous route had I had kids and been married. So, it's just the circumstances, it's just the way the stars aligned. And I'm glad they did,
definitely, so why live the life of an adventurer?
Why? What? That is a very good question. No one's ever asked me that. It's so simple. Yeah, I've never really thought, why be an adventurer? Don't. You spend most of your time being cold, wet, miserable, hungry, and tired. There's no money in it. You're away from your family a lot. I don't know why I'm doing it. No, why? I think well, I'm good at it, for one.
Okay.
I'm very lucky that I found out that actually I'm very good in my own company. I never get lonely. I'm quite task oriented. I think I'd be a good farmer. I think because farmers, you got to wake up early, which I like doing, and you've got to do specific jobs. You've got this to do. You got to clean out the muck. You got to feed the things. You got to do. And I think I'm quite task driven. I like lists, so I'm good with training because it's like, right, get up at 5, go for a swim, do this, take the kids to school, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I'm good at it. I like structure and that sort of thing. I think I have a short-term memory, which helps with endurance sport because you forget the pain and all that. So that's
good.
So that helps, and I obviously don't really enjoy the world record I'm trying to break, because if you enjoyed it, you're not pushing hard enough, or the record's too easy.
That's a good one.
So I'm always miserable, but actually I enjoy the retrospective fulfillment at the end of it.
Enjoy the sufferfest.
Well, no, actually I don't enjoy the sufferfest. No, I hate it. I just enjoy the achievement at the other end.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoy getting out the other side. Oh yeah, I'm good at it. I have a short-term memory, so I'm miserable now, but in 5 minutes time I've forgotten about it. So it's quite useful that.
Definitely, that what most ultra endurance athletes do. Who do they get the hate the being the present of doing the races or whatever, but what's they're done. Well, I mean, a few hours after they're done, they're truly enjoy it.
Well, they call it type 2 fun. Type 1 fun is a roller coaster when it's fun at the time, but you forget about it. Type 2 fun is when you hate it at the time, but in 6 months you look back and go, oh, actually that was pretty fun.
I know. I've been there quite a few times. That's good. So that's the reason why. In your journey of life, you live a life to the fullest. What have been some fears that you had to overcome, or maybe was a blessing in disguise?
That's a good one, actually. You know, the failure in photography has become a passion, has become a sort of a fire. You know, that reignited the fire. It made me just really passionate about, you know, not messing up the second chance I had at a different life. You know, I sort of, the photography was my old life and this is now my new life. And then, you know, I'm an athlete. This life's going to end at some point just because of biologically and age. And then I'll have a third life. And then I might even have a fourth life. I quite like that. I quite like the fact that I'm potentially going to have two whole different lives still ahead of me. That's exciting for me, right? And so that failure helps. You know, getting injured, whenever you get injured doing something and you have to pull out and start again, you know, that always teaches you. And there's been many injuries and mishaps along the way, really, and they teach you a lot. And also, you know, I think doing this as a full-time thing is very different to just going off and trying to do one thing in your life and then going back to work. And it's taught me to be quite creative within, you know, to make a living as a non-professional ultra endurance athlete, which is kind of what I do. I say non-professional because, you know, I don't have organized events to partake in. I just sort of create my own or try and find other world records to break. And because I don't have a governing body and I don't have races to enter and there's no prize money, you know, I have to be quite creative in ways of making a living. And that's, I quite enjoy that. I think, you know, I quite enjoy writing the books and doing the public speaking and you know, working with sponsors to come up with some creative strategies for marketing and raising money for charity and all that. And that's been very useful. You know, because in the early days, I just thought, well, I'll just go and break a record and everything will just work out. But, you know, it's not that simple now. You got to work quite hard in making this a career. And I hate the word career, but I guess if you make money from something, I guess it's sort of somewhat a career.
A little something.
Yeah, it's not the drive and passion. You know, when photography, that was the only end goal was money. Whereas this, the end goal is never the money. However, you know, schooling is very expensive for kids, you know, and I've got to put food on the table for the kids, put a roof over their head. So, you know, and I would do something even if there was no financial return. For example, you mentioned earlier the national parks marathons. I made no money from that, absolutely none, zero. But it was important for me to do it because I want to show my kids. You know, I want to lead as a good example for my kids, really, and that sort of is one of my biggest motivating factors at the moment. That one day my kids, when they're teenagers, will look at me and go, "Wow, Dad, you're really cool." But I've been told no teenagers think their dads are cool, so I'm wasting my time. I say this every time, but I think I am wasting my time.
I was going to get to that about the national park challenge. That you done earlier this year. So my training starts. So you have some major accomplishment in your life as a venturer. So how long you been doing for now? About 10, 11 years you've been doing?
11 years, but I've had 4 years off. The last 4 years I've not done anything. Yeah, because I got married, had some kids, COVID, all these sort of things. So this June, it's top secret, so you're gonna have to watch this space, is my next big thing, and it's
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, it's going to take me over 100 days to complete, so it's very it's long.
Okay. Are you going to be in the US doing it also?
No, I'm going to be in the UK for it.
That's okay. No worries. I got to come to the UK. Okay, so you have some major accomplishment as an athlete. I want to say you being the first person to cycle, run and swim 4,200 miles to Great Britain was your #1 accomplishment. I could be wrong. What is your
So the world's longest triathlon, so weirdly, every time I do something, that seems to be the best thing, because I'm always trying to push myself.
Yeah.
However, when I swam the length of Britain, which was a 900-mile swim up the coast of Britain, that had never been done before.
Okay. Then.
And I think looking back now with the benefit of hindsight, the confidence I got from that swim and the opportunities that opened for me after that swim, that was after that swim I was able to move out my mum's house at the age of 32. So I think looking back now, the swimming the length of Britain is probably the thing that I'll probably look back on and go, wow, that was the thing that changed your life the most from a confidence point of view, and from I'm now able to feed my family, and that was probably the start of it. That was probably the start of when the stars started to sort of come into alignment for me, I guess.
So how did that change your life doing that swim in Great Britain? How that change your life? What kind of opportunity opened up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just all of a sudden made me realize I can do these big endurance challenges. And because of that, I've then gone on to do the world's longest triathlon and run the length of Britain and break the world record for cycling across Europe. So I think that was because before that I cycled around the world, but I failed on that one. I tried to get the world record for cycling around the world, but I got run over, and that one ended. So I really sort of was kind of feeling quite low about my ability as an endurance athlete. So I didn't think I could do it, but the swim just gave me that confidence that, wow, yeah, Sean, you can do this. Which then meant it just opened up my sort of book of dreams became a reality. Oh, can I do the world's longest triathlon? Finishing the swim sort of gave me the confidence to be like, yeah, I can do that. So I think that's how it really made me go on to do these other things.
Okay, that's awful. I love that part of your journey. Where you realize that even though you failed you failed before, and then but you kept going, in which you accomplished that swim, like kind of like give you that self-confidence, that where it's possible, with seeing possible at first, seeing possible, and you see it where it's possible, and that really is like, okay,
yeah, exactly. Had I failed the swim, I probably wouldn't have tried anything else. I'd have probably gone, you know what, maybe the endurance thing isn't for me, and I maybe would have gone back into photography or something. So yeah, it really was a sort of a life-changing moment when I finished that swim.
Oh, that's wonderful. So we want to talk a little bit more about the recent marathon challenge you done in National Park, early this year, correct? In January, you done that?
Yeah. Well, no, it was last year now. Yeah, I did it last year.
Yeah. Okay. I guess that wasn't that recent.
Yeah.
So 15 marathons, 15 national parks in 15 days. So you mentioned, I want to ask you what inspired you to take on that challenge. But you say your kids inspire you to take on that challenge, or it's other reason?
Well, so actually, I was originally going to do it in America. So there's what is 60, 64, 66, there's 60 something national parks in America.
Yeah.
And I was going to do a marathon in each one.
Okay.
I don't know if I would have done them consecutively. I don't know, because I don't know the travel time between some of them, but I wanted to do 60. I wanted to do a marathon in every national park in America. Oh, wow. And then COVID happened, and obviously no one traveled and that sort of thing. And then on top of that, when things started opening up, everyone was traveling to the national parks in the UK. And then really they started being abused. People were littering and camping where they shouldn't camp and all this. And, it's the national parks in the UK are slightly different to America, I believe.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in America, a national park is an area that's sort of fenced off, and it's owned by the government or something, and you pay to get in, right?
Yes.
Whereas in the UK, all the national park areas are made up of private land. So all the national parks, people own the land. However, the British public have been given free rights to access these areas, even though they're private. So you can own a bit of land in the national park. You actually can't do anything with it. You can't build a house in it. You can't do anything. It's called public access land. Not all of it. A lot of it is still agriculture, which has its own issues, and that's something separate. But my point is, in the UK, all the national parks are free to access. You don't have to get a permit. You can anyone can go hiking and walking and use the national parks, which is, I think, brilliant. You know, in the UK, you don't have to. You can just wake up tomorrow and go for a hike. You don't have to pay to get it. Whatever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I just wanted to promote that within the UK and say, look, everyone, our national parks here are amazing. You know, let's look after them. So that's sort of why I wanted to sort of go and do a little bit of a road trip run around the national parks, just to show them off to people and give people a bit of a sort of a wow, you know, they're all, let's not litter and let's not sort of camp where we can't be allowed to, that sort of thing.
So you take something that you enjoy doing as to bring awareness to some issues, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's part of one of the reasons I do these things. I'm not going to lie, it's not always the most important reason. You know, I do still want to break a record usually. And I'm hoping that by breaking a record, people are intelligent enough to take their own parallels from my journey without me trying to have to force something down their throat. But the national parks one was particularly important to me to show off the beauty, and also do, like, I mean, without trying to sound patronizing to myself and other people, 15 marathons in 15 days isn't particularly record breaking, right? You know, it's not, I'm not trying to pretend it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
I know.
I made it a little bit harder because I was self-supported, so I was driving between each park myself, and that made it a bit, and I was camping myself, so that was made it harder, but still, the focus on that one was just the beauty of Great Britain.
So will you ever attempt to come here to the US and try that? You know?
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd really love to. I'd love to do this. Loads I'd love to do in America. I love it. You know, I've cycled across it. I've cycled most of Route 66 before. So I don't know what it is yet in America. But you know, it's either a big record or. But it's hard to break records in America. You guys are just so fast at everything. So, you know, I was years ago, I was toying with the Across America running record. That's just unachievable now.
You got quite a few people that maybe have done it.
It's so hard. I mean, the record now is, it's like, it's something like 40 days or something, isn't it?
Maybe.
Like, it's crazy.
I know it is crazy. We like try these. That's something we enjoy doing here.
So it's either a big record or it's something that's an interesting story, like the national park. So we'll see.
Let me know. Hopefully I can meet you up, you know. And,
definitely.
You know. Bring something to eat or something. I don't know.
Well, there's one challenge. So there's, was it 9 or 14 towns called Conway? So I'm Sean Conway. That's my surname. And I think I worked out however many towns are called Conway there are in America. There's a 10,000-mile route going to every town called Conway.
Well, I know a couple. Speak of Conway, I know a couple of Conways. I know one Conway I'm really close to where my hometown is in South Carolina, called Conway, South Carolina. That close to Myrtle Beach.
Where
I would grow up at. And there's another Conway in Arkansas.
I've been to that one. I've been to the Conway in Arkansas. And I've been to one up in so when I cycled Route 66, I went through 2 of them. So so anyway, between Chicago and Amarillo, there's 2. I don't remember where they are. I was cycling 400 miles at a go, you know. So
So next time you got to come to Conway, South Carolina, you know.
Yeah, I need to. Well, there's as I said, there's like 9 or 10 or 14. I can't remember the number, but there's one way up near near Canada on the west coast somewhere, and that's the one that adds loads of mileage too. So it might be a cycle ride rather than a run, to be fair.
Okay, nice. I love it. Also, I believe you mentioned, so talk about your journey in running. So why your journey more than about running?
So my journey in running, well, I actually only got into running really last year. You know, I've done big runs, but I've been really slow, and I've done multi-day run. Like I ran 1,000 miles the length of Britain. I ran 800 miles, but it took me forever. You know, it took me a month to run 1,000 miles. You know, it's pretty slow. So only in the last year or so have I sort of really been focusing a lot on running, because I'm 41 now, and it's a good age. I'm a good age for running, you know. You know, I know my body a bit better now. I'm feeling robust. I'm slower, but I was always slow anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I'm not sort of depressed about being slower because I was always slow. But I can just go longer, and I like it. You know, and that's for me. I like going out. You know, I sort of almost always run on time rather than distance. You know, I like the fact I can go run for 3 hours, and you know, I'll probably only do 15 miles, but I feel good. You know, and I like it, and I like being able to do that day after day, and I like to be able to run all day. And although I'm not, you know, I'm not walking, so it's still. I'm still doing a run. I'm just doing a slow run, and I like the pace of it. You know, I like not being out of breath. I like being able to talk and look around, and I sort of, for me, I'm probably not a runner. I'm probably a jogger. You know?
That's good. That's okay.
So and I like running as a means of transport rather than an athletic sort of achievement, if you know what I mean. You know?
So you never like done all your 11 years of being an adventurer. You never done organized races or sports. You know, all they were like, you know, somebody you created, somebody you thought of, or you had.
Yeah,
you know?
I entered the London Marathon. That's the only marathon event I've ever entered, and I've run 2 ultra marathons. And I did a Tough Mudder, you know, one of those obstacle things.
Yes. Okay, then.
I think those are the only 4 running based events that I've ever entered in my life.
So doing all your events, so I guess you get pretty good recognition. You know, you say you've written several books, you've been on TED Talks, you know, and all that steam because of things you've done as an adventurer.
I mean, that's part of, you know, the romantic answer to that question is, well, by sharing my story, I get to inspire loads of people. And I really get a kick out of that. You know, I love people to say, oh, I listened to your book and I decided to go for a run. You know, of course that makes me feel warm and special. But on the flip side, I've also got a family to feed, and that's the unromantic. That's the side people don't want to hear about, but it's true. You know, I get to do this job, and I have this ultra endurance career, and the fact that it's also able to send my kids to nursery and buy food is awesome. You know, and that for me, it also gives me a kick. You know, and it means I don't have to go and, you know, work at McDonald's because I have no education. So I don't have, in the UK it's called A levels, which is what you get when you're 16, 17. I don't have that. And I didn't go to university either.
Interesting.
So other than photography, I'm unemployable, I think. So if other than writing books, I mean, I think if it all ended tomorrow, if I sort of got hit by a bus and was stuck to a desk, I think probably being an author is the only thing I could fall back on. So I would have to do that. Really, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, to able to do what you enjoy doing, make a living out of it, is wonderful, yeah. And and speaking of your family, so what does your wife think about all your venture life, and what do you want your kids to learn from the things you've done so far?
So yeah, my wife, I mean, she knew me. We only met while I was doing this job, this career. Yeah. So she knows the deal. You know, people think I'm away a lot, but actually I'm at home a lot. I train from home. And I go and do public. When pre-COVID, I'd go once a week, twice a week, and do public speaking. But really, once a year, once every 2 years, I would be away for a few months. But then the rest of the time, I'm at home. So she enjoys it. My kids, I want to sort of lead as an example rather than sort of words coming out my mouth and giving them some philosophies on life. I'd like to just do stuff, and then they can look at it and go, wow, that's cool, Dad. Especially like, I can't wait for this moment. I have this moment in my head where my son is trying to learn the guitar and he's moaning about sore fingers, and I'll be like, damn you, son, I did the world's longest triathlon once. You don't know pain. Stop moaning. So I think it'd be nice for my kids to get some sort of their bar for achievement, I'm hoping, is going to be high. I secretly, my wife doesn't want my kids to become sportsmen, but I've got 2 boys. I'd love for them to get into sport. My wife used to be a swimmer, but she was never competitive. She was good, but she didn't have that killer instinct to sort of want to win, which is a shame, because I think she could have probably been an Olympian. She's tall, and she used to swim for Wales as a kid, when she was 12 and 13. And she just never progressed it. I think it'd be cool if my kids, because I think sport is such a good way of keeping some kids on the right side of the track, if you know what I mean. I think absolutely. Whether it's whatever sport, I think just pick any sport out of a hat. It'll focus your energies in something useful rather than so I think my kids are too young. My eldest son, he is a bit naughty, and I got a feeling he could be swayed down the wrong side of the track later in life. And I think sport will bring him back, hopefully. So anyway, we'll see what happens.
We see how hopefully it will.
Hopefully
will. Yeah. So I like that. So for people who don't know you, what do you want people to know about Sean Conway?
I don't really care, I think. Someone asked me, like, what do you want your legacy to be? I'm like, I don't even care about having a legacy, to be fair. In fact, the only legacy I do like the fact that I'm going to have is I'll keep the copyrights to my books for 70 years after I die. So I like the fact that in 100 years time from now, my great grandkids are probably going to be getting 10 quid a month to buy some beer money from great granddad's book sales still. So I quite like that. But no, you know what? I don't really care, what people think of me, and I'm not really that bothered about having any legacy or whatnot. I think now it makes me feel good, and I feel it's worth it if I get an email every now and then. People say, wow, I saw what you've done, and now I've decided to go off and do something on my own and go down my own journey. And I quite like that. And if that happens after I'm dead and when I'm gone, that'll be great. But I'm not really, don't want a statue of me or any of that jazz.
Of course. No, I don't know what. Yeah, definitely, I understand. So what's your life lesson through all the try and errors, you know, or your life so far?
Yeah.
What kind of life lesson that you will leave, whatever, or what you've done, you know?
I think, yeah, what I've learned, especially in an endurance world, and I think this goes across all areas of life, is you can't judge what's going to happen tomorrow based on what's happening today. Because, you know, if you have a bad day today, it's quite often your brain will just presume that tomorrow's going to be bad, it's going to be bad thereafter, you know. So when I've been cycling through the Atacama Desert with a 40-mile-an-hour headwind, it's quite easy to sort of get despondent. But actually, the reality is tomorrow has no real, you know, tomorrow's success or tomorrow's, you know, outcome really has, you know, today's misery has no effect on that. And the other way around, you know, when you've got a tailwind and the weather's good and you're feeling strong and you're hydrated, sometimes you can take your foot off the gas. And then tomorrow you've not capitalized on that. And then tomorrow is a little bit harder because you didn't make the most of the wave. So it's sort of, it's having that level-headedness to know that, you know, when it's bad today, it's going to be good at some point. And if it's good today, remember, it could be bad at some point, so make the most of it. So I think those are two important lessons that I've learned, really.
Okay, then. Yeah, so, if something happened today, you know, it won't be the same tomorrow, you know.
Exactly.
Everything always changing.
Yeah, and learn from it. You know, you learn from what went wrong, and can you change things? And you know, of course, if you do nothing, it could just stay the same. Like in photography, you know, when things weren't going well in photography, looking back now, I didn't really do anything about it. I just sort of, you know, just got miserable and mowed about it. So, yeah, you got to have some action plan.
Definitely.
So,
yeah. So really, to my last question, I like to ask everyone. So, what is your boundless motivation and thoughts?
Well, I mentioned earlier, you know, the thing that keeps me sort of going into that place where I want to give up, is just the look on my kids' faces. You know, like if I achieve something, you know, I want them to have that look in their face that like, wow, Dad, that's freaking awesome. Because if I don't do it, you know, there's going to be that, oh well, at least you tried, and that gives me panic attacks. You know, that sort of sympathy pat on the back, like, well done, you tried, but it didn't quite work out. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want that look on my kids and my wife's face, which is like, wow, you did well there. You know, you worked hard and it worked out in the end. So that keeps me motivated.
So I guess you begin to look so far from your wife and kids, like, wow, you know, that's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I have failed quite a few things. You know, my first the length of Britain run, I failed. First attempt to cycle across Europe, I failed. Route 66 bike race, I had to pull out in Amarillo. So you know, there's been a lot of failures as well. So I do know the feeling the other end. So
but you find a way to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Short-term memory, you know.
Short-term memory. I guess you had to have a short-term memory, ready, not only with sports, but just in life too. You know, I mean, learn from
totally
failures in life, you know, in sports or wherever, you know, and keep going, you know, and not being stuck.
Exactly.
Totally. Keep climbing that hill. So but thank you for that, you know. And thank you for your time and just for joining me today, Sean. And so if people want to follow you and get in contact with you, how would they do
that? Probably Instagram. You know, Sean if they just search Sean Conway on Instagram, you'll find me there somewhere for the hairy bearded guy. Or my website, SeanConway.com. There's everything you need to find out there as well. So but just go online.
Okay, I was going to ask you about your red hair and your beard. You know, you're growing it out. You know.
Irish. It's the Irish in me.
Irish. Yes, awesome. Yeah. So thank you once again, for just the time. And I'm glad to work it out, the time schedule and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Hopefully we see each other down the road. Hopefully, see you in the US. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'd love it.
Yes. I also want to thank the Live from Boundless family once again for joining me for another episode, the Live from Boundless show. Living a life beyond the boundary that you set on yourself. And just with Sean, I think he lived with a life, he went past his boundaries, and kept going, and realized his potential in a way where he could do, so it's definitely a great example of that, so thank you for the example. Thank you for this conversation. And we'll talk again and to next time.
See you next time, mate. See you later.